I am going to have two quick disclaimers before this episode. One, the title's totally clickbait. If you're listening, then it probably worked. And two, I am really hesitant about putting this out there, this episode. In fact, the reason why the podcast is late this week is because I started to talk about this topic and trashed it because I was like, I am going to get canceled if I say what I truly feel. I'm back because I really feel like this is important. And I also hope that you will understand some nuance here, that I am not calling out a specific person, although like I am naming specific people in this episode, but they are examples of something bigger. And this is not a knock on the women that I am mentioning in this episode. So, with that being said, welcome to Christianish. This is the podcast for women who have Bibles, but don't necessarily have boundaries. My name is Keisha Rice. I am a dating coach and a hypnotherapist. I help women learn how to heal from their unhealthy relationship patterns and attract healthy, loving, romantic relationships. And to that end, I am going to talk about the need for you to really, truly understand what it means to love yourself, what it means to heal yourself, to be on a healing journey, and what it means to empower yourself. But to do that, I am going to talk about something that, again, I've been seeing on my social media feed a lot for the past couple of days. And that is Sarah Jakes Roberts and the Women Evolve Conference. So I do follow Sarah Jakes Roberts somewhat, listen to some of her sermons. I have never attended Women Evolve and just have never really made that something on my priority list. So I think I'm gathering from the social media posts that that conference was either last weekend or is coming up this weekend at the time of this recording. But either way, a lot of people have been talking about it, right? And a lot of the conversations center around people being critical of Sarah Jakes Roberts and of this conference because the tickets are something like, I don't know, I think I've seen online like $200 for the basic passes into the conference. And there's VIP packages that cost more than that. And there are people saying that they don't understand what is happening in this modern era of Christian conferences. Talking about not only Sarah Jakes Roberts, but people also bring up B. Simone as well. And they're saying that they don't understand because back in the day, going to church conferences was free. And I hear you because from personal experience, I am a millennial. My dad is a preacher. I grew up Pentecostal. And I remember that our summer vacations and spring breaks were filled with going to this conference or that conference, right? I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. We went to conferences all the time in Greenville, throughout the Carolinas, in Georgia. And we went to some national conferences as well. We even went to an international one in Germany once. So, been there, done that, came back with a t-shirt. And in the defense of conferences that happen now with, Sarah Jakes Roberts, with B. Simone, with insert your Black female Christian influencer, right? Or even white female Christian influencer. I know like Christine Kane and Christine Kane's the only one that's coming to mind right now, but I will probably think of some others as I talk. But in the defense of that, I will say that even the conferences that we went to back in the day weren't free. Like, yes, technically it was a matter of just booking your hotel, but I always remember like our church collecting offerings before. And then when you were at the conference itself, they took up offering. And I'm sure that was to pay for renting the hotel or whatever, but still, you paid. It just wasn't like in the form of a paying a ticket with an exact price. It was, you gave whatever in offering. Or you paid council dues, which were a set amount. Granted, again, not $200, but still, you did pay. I think I remember because when I was younger, I was heavily involved in church with being a Sunday school teacher. I started teaching my own Sunday school class when I was 12. I was a junior usher, junior missionary. I sang on the choir, all of that. So all these different auxiliaries departments had their dues that they had to pay to conference. And I remember back then, like it wasn't like the dues were that much. Some of them were like $3 or $5 or $8. But, my dad was a minister and he was an usher and my mom was an usher and a Sunday school teacher. Like we were involved in pretty much everything you could be involved in the church. So if you have three people paying $5 for this, $5 for that, for like 5 or 6 different things, it adds up, right? So again, not completely free, but to the point about going to church, learning about God, attending workshops and classes, and really being connected in the spirit and having that religious experience, whether or not you should pay an upfront cost to do that, and whether or not it is necessary to have these social media worthy events with all of these different decorations and light shows and all the different things that mega churches in general do, whether or not all of that is necessary to have an experience with God. I get it. I totally get it. However, that is not really the scope of my podcast. It's also a debate for another day. What I want to talk about is the feeling of needing to be a part of these, not wanting. Because again, I've never gone to a Women Evolve conference, but that doesn't mean that I won't in the future, right? At some point, I may decide that I want to go. I think that I'm always open to opportunities to meeting people who are like-minded. I could see how there would be the potential at an event like that to network, as a business owner. I also just, I'm also always just open to having an excuse to travel to another city. So, yeah, there are definitely reasons why I could see going to that type of conference. So I'm not slamming those of you who attended Women Evolve. I am not slamming Sarah Jakes Roberts for hosting it. There's always going to be a space for things like that, for Christian and women's conferences in general, for Christian women's conferences that in particular tailor to Black women, and also for just empowerment conferences, because this was another thing that I heard as a criticism of Women Evolve, was that it was not just straight preaching, that people are saying this is not a Christian conference, this is a women's empowerment conference, because talking about finances and other things, health, all of that over the course of the conference. To which my personal opinion on that is, what is wrong with that? Like, yes, I'm a dating coach. I help women with their romantic relationships. But part of that is also talking to women about mindset, career, about their families, about their health, because all relationships are related. So if you show me a woman who is having struggles with her romantic relationships, I can guarantee you she's also having struggles in her relationship with God, and her relationship with her family members, with her job or her career, with friends, because boundaries are boundaries, right? If you can't set boundaries in one area, you can't set boundaries in others. Communication issues are communication issues across the board. All of these things. So my problem is not going to these conferences or not going to these conferences. At the end of the day, you do you. If you want to spend $200 or five, six, seven, 800, whatever on a VIP ticket to a conference, do that. As long as you can afford it, as long as it's not hurting you, go and enjoy yourself. My problem is when people feel that they need to do this. Almost as if people feel that they need an intercessory to get closer to God or to get closer to a goal. And this is one of the things that touches me personally, because as a coach and as someone who shows up online and on social media and everything, I don't want a woman to ever think that she has to work with me or she's going to be single forever. If, getting married, being in a relationship is her goal. Because yes, I can definitely help. And yes, I most definitely can get her closer to the goal and in a quicker amount of time. I have clients who we work together and within, months of us working together or, maybe a year after we first started working together, they met the man who became their husband. So yes, I can help, I can guide, I can give support, I can give advice, I can give dating strategy, all of those things. But I am also human and I also cannot do the work for you. I can show you what the work looks like and help you facilitate it. And this is why I really want to talk about these conferences. And not just Women Evolve, not just the stuff that B. Simone does, but even the conferences that I went to as a kid in the, late 90s, early 2000s, right? Because there is a sentiment sometimes that we need insert experience to live the life that we want to have. So I don't feel close to God. I need to travel several hours by car in order to go to this specific event so that I can renew my faith with God. Or I have been on dating apps for 2-3 months and it's not working out. So I specifically not just need to go to therapy or not just see a coach, which are very healthy things. Again, I'm a coach myself, right? And during times in my life where I felt it necessary, I have seen a coach or I have seen a therapist. So again, I think those are very healthy things to do. But your therapist and your coach are not going to save you. That conference is not going to save you. And I really need you to understand that. The work is personal. If you are looking at your life and you are not happy with what you are seeing right now, you have to have a willingness to put in the work. You have to have a willingness to hold yourself accountable, to get real with yourself, to know what your shortcomings are, to be ready to fix those things, to tackle those things, and to be ready for the process to sometimes be painful while you're tackling those things. You have to be willing to accept that no one is coming to save you. And this is, again, one of the things that I was afraid to say. But when I say no one is coming to save you, I mean even God. Because one of the things about God in his loving care is that he gives us free will, right? So because of that, yes, God delivers us when we are in trouble. I truly believe that. I know that to be true from things in my personal life, but only when we ask for that help and deliverance. Only when we're willing to listen. Only when we're willing to be obedient, right? And it is the same thing with a coach or a therapist. You know, coaches, therapists will give you homework, will give you assignments. They will talk to you about things that may be hard to confront at first. And in order to benefit from their training, from their wisdom, from their guidance, you have to be willing to do that work. You have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be willing to listen to someone saying things about you that maybe you don't want to hear. And that doesn't mean, just to be clear, that doesn't mean that your therapist or your coach should bully you. If you feel that the person that you're seeing for this help, again, therapy or coaching, is not a fit, if they're just blatantly disregarding you, then yeah, you are more than able to fire your coach, fire your therapist, and find a new one. However, there's a difference between you being bullied and you being held accountable, right? And it does take a little bit of wisdom and discernment to know the difference. But if you are seeing someone who is holding you accountable, that is a part of the process. That is something that you need to accept. And that is something where now that you are being held accountable, you then have to turn it on and hold yourself accountable to making the changes that you need to make. And one of the things that concerns me when I look at influencer culture is that I see, and yes, men do this too before someone comes for me, but I work with women, so I'm not really concerned with what men are doing in the context of this podcast. I see so many women start to look up to women that they see online to the point where they are trying a little bit to live that person's life. One, without knowing all the things that person has gone through to get to where they are. Two, not even really knowing what's behind the scenes. Because I can tell you, I would just say, even in my little corner of the world, I obviously would never name names, but I've worked with some women in coaching who are on social media talking about things, posting about their relationships, and people are loving every minute of it and talking about couple goals and I want a relationship like that and may this love attack me. And this woman is coming to me because that relationship's not even real. She and that person are posting on social media for the follows, for the clout. Or they really are a real life couple, but again, behind the scenes, they're fighting like cats and dogs all the time. So you don't even know if what you're seeing is real. You don't know like what that person has gone through. And also, you don't know if you are on the same path as them. It is one thing to be influenced by other people. So even, since we're talking about Sarah Jakes Roberts and Women Evolve, I'll use her as an example. I have seen, I've listened to her podcast and I have seen certain things that she does with brand deals or things like that. And I will look at it and I'll say, that's interesting. Maybe I should incorporate more of that in my business. Or maybe I should think about certain things that she does with her podcast. Think about those things for my podcast, right? There's nothing wrong with being able to look at someone who's put themselves out there as a public figure, an example, and be able to take one or two things from them. and use those as examples for how you want to improve your own life. But you cannot go around here making other people your God. And I think some of you are doing that without realizing it. You cannot go out here thinking that going to one person's event is going to completely change your life and make everything better. It can be a start, it can be a catalyst, but it's not going to be the end all be all thing. And, again, in dating and relationships, you cannot put a romantic relationship, a marriage, on a pedestal so high that you think that once you get married, once you find the right man, everything in your life is going to be perfect. Everything in your life is going to be great. That's the only blessing that you need from God. God just needs to bless you with the right man and everything else will fall in place. You have to save yourself. You have to be committed to really spending time with yourself in silence, in prayer, in meditation, really being alone and figuring out what it is that you need to live the purpose that is on your life. And then what are the steps that you need to take to get there? And once you do that, everything else adds on, right? So I worked very hard on creating a beautiful life for myself and getting married, having my husband. My husband is great and he adds on to the great life that I was building for myself. He makes it better. But it would be too much to ask him as one person, as one human being, to be everything that makes my life good, right? Again, back to these conferences and influencers and content creators and all of that. Once you've spent the time with yourself, with God, truly understanding what it is that you want, what your dream life looks like, and what steps you want to take to get there, then yes, having a therapist can help you unpack some of the trauma and issues that led to you not having the ideal life that you want to have right now. A coach can really hold you accountable and give you concrete steps to help you move forward and to help you think about things a different way and redirect you to help point you in the direction of where you should go to get whatever it is that you're seeing the coach for, right? Whether you're seeing a dating and relationship coach or business coach, a personal trainer is just a fitness coach. So, whatever your goal is. And then, the podcasts, the books, the YouTube videos, all of those things can, again, help you. Like, yes, take notes, learn from those things, integrate it into, your study and your growth. But you cannot depend on any one source to save you. I need you to really ask yourself, what is the life that you want to create for yourself? What does that look like? And how much work are you willing to put in to get it? And I think that once you truly answer that, once you really spent some serious time thinking about it, you won't be caught up in frivolous arguments about Christian women's conferences and whether or not people should be paying for them and whether or not it was a waste of time or money or anything like that. You see how I circled that back around? But seriously, back to what I said before. If you want to spend the money on it, do it. Have fun. Go out there, meet new people, find some new friends, all of that. If you don't want to do it, cool. Spend your money on other things. Spend your money and time on what makes you happy. Because again, once you come to a point in life where you realize that you have to take ownership of your life, you're going to be focused on the things that make you happy and not so much on what other people are doing and whether or not they should be doing it, whether or not you should be pocket watching what other people spend their money on. Sorry, I just had a moment there because I was just actually talking with a friend about people pocket watching and why they're so obsessed with what other people spend their money on when they could be using their own time, effort, and energy to make their lives better. But let me know, have you ever been guilty of some of these self-development traps, of getting so caught up in a book, a course, an influencer, whatever, an event, you name it, that you thought that that one thing was going to be the thing that changed your life, and then realizing later that it was more complicated than that. Message me and let me know. I am on social media at Keisha Rice. So that's Keshia. Rice, Rice. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, YouTube. So yeah, DM me, let me know. Also, I'm sure one of those forms, probably my Instagram, has my email. But yes, I would be interested to know your takeaway from this episode. And if you want to work with me, talking about working with a coach to help improve your life, again, you will also have to put in the work yourself, but I can help you with that work. There will be a link in the show notes, or if you're listening on your favorite podcast, or if you are on YouTube for this, the description, there'll be a link to schedule a call with me and we can talk about working together one-on-one and seeing if we're a fit for each other. So I will talk to you soon. Love you so much. Goodbye.
This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.